Hi, everyone. My name is Nyemade Boiwu, and I am NAMI Delaware's Diversity and Equity Fellow. I'm so excited to have two great guests with me today for today's Sharing Hope community conversation. It's June, which is Pride Month. So today we're talking about the mental health impact of what is sometimes a big moment for those in the LGBTQIA community, which is coming out. And we're going to talk about the mental health impact of that and just their journey and how they navigate all of that. So I'm excited to have two great guests with me today. I have the artist Madeline Porter, who is also goes by the name Phoenix. And I also have Angela Brown, who is the VP of I Am Me Inc. Thank you both so much for joining me today. I'll have you introduce yourselves and tell everybody a little bit about you and like what you do and your organization. I'm going to go ahead and start with Madeline or Phoenix. Madeline, for the duration of this, would you like to be addressed as Madeline or Phoenix?
Phoenix, but I don't know how to change my name on the Zoom. I know there's a way. Yeah, if I figure that out, I'll do it. I just don't remember how.
I can take care of it.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Government Madeline, but my chosen preferred name is Phoenix. Thanks. My art name in the art community is Rising Phoenix, and it's supposed to represent resilience. It's a name I picked for myself at like 18 for empowerment, and I came out at that time. I'm an artist, as I said, a local artist. I have exhibitions downtown Wilmington often. I actually have my closing exhibition this Friday, so tomorrow, and it's all Pride themed at Second and Market at the Academy for Peace. So if you're available from 5:30 to 8, anytime, stop by there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And then Angela? I'm sorry, Angel.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm Angel Brown, and I am board member and vice president of I Am Me Inc. And I Am Me Inc. is a Delaware-based LGBTQIA nonprofit organization, and we focus on unity, uplifting, and educating the community on LGBTQIA issues and allies. Our main thing is just providing a safe space so we can deal with whatever issues that we need to deal with. So we're pretty much an educational organization that try to give resources to help, especially with mental health.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you both for joining us. So as I mentioned when we started this, that sometimes the biggest moment, not the biggest, but a moment that I feel probably triggers anxiety for many people in the LGBTQIA community is coming out. Or as my friend has taught me to change it as bringing people in versus coming out. But for now, and for the way it was traditionally known as this coming out, Phoenix, I know you have quite a story behind that. Would you feel comfortable sharing as much or as little of that story with us?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I just gotta figure out how to be concise because I tend to be quite verbose. I had anxiety because last year I came out as lesbian, and prior to that I identified as bisexual. There's even more stigma about coming out more than once because if you're not completely certain of who you are, before 20, well, you must be going through a phase of confused. It's not that I felt that my former identity of bisexual was a lie or trying to make that stepping stone to gay, because I know there's a stigma of invalidation of bisexual people because of people who later come out as gay. Bisexual people are very valid. But I know as more information was being provided, I realized that there are a lot of different aspects around sexual orientation, but because it has the word sexual, it's like people they only think about the sex part. When I had relationships with men, I did love them in an emotional way. I cared for them. There are a few men that I find aesthetically pleasing, but when it came to the sex part, that really wasn't. I wasn't happy to be there, and there's a lot of societal expectations of women, especially I would be told if I really loved the right guy, eventually I'd want to do that. And this is happening and happening and happening. Asked my counselor, first boyfriend I had at 19, is it normal to think about women when your boyfriend's touching you? It's like I've been known, but I don't know. I also felt like this pressure of if I'm not 110%, girls 110%, never finding any guy attractive, never having like anything, 0, 0. It was helpful to meet other gay people who are on a spectrum. There are gay people who are 110%, but there are also gay people, I guess you would call like 90% or 99. The Kinsey scale is a thing, and everybody's not, I guess, completely on the bar end of the scale. And I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to people. I have a family member who's the opposite, stated that, she is a lesbian. She can have sex with men, but there's no emotional tie. No, I want a husband. I want to spend my life with this person. So it really varies because there's a lot of aspects to attraction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And thank you so much for sharing that. Mm-hmm. I think something that you pointed out, which is what a lot of people go through that I've talked to in that experience, is like feeling like they have to define themselves early by one or the other. And then when they can't, or when that changes, they feel like they're being, not as honest or as steadfast, and like you said, as people won't take them as seriously, which I feel is so unfortunate that we even have to label ourselves to begin with, especially as you mentioned the Kingsley scale for attraction and how people are on the spectrum. For those who may not know, actually, I can explain about Angela. Do you know a little bit about the scale?
Yes.
The spectrum.
The Kingsley scale.
Yes, absolutely. Would you be able to explain that to everyone?
Why don't you go ahead and explain it? I might not explain it properly. Go ahead and explain it.
Well, the most general way to explain it is that human sexuality is on a spectrum. So it's between the numbers of like 1 to 6 for that particular scale. And it's older, so it's changed over time. And you can actually go online and take a test, and it asks you, like, are you more attracted to this or less attracted to this, more or
but
that?
But is the test the same? Because I've seen a couple of different Kingsley scales. That's why I'm let you explain it, because I still, like I said, I've seen a couple of different ones.
There's the term heteroflexible and homoflexible. I like that those terms exist because it's kind of like someone is mostly straight or mostly gay. They're not really going out there to pursue that, same sex. But if somebody happened to be an exception, they're not completely closed off to it. It's like, in general, I want this person, but I'm not close to the idea that if it's an exceptional person, yeah, I'll do it. That's, because like I said, that I would consider it like 95% like not pursuit, opportunity, I guess. Mm-hmm. Someone exceptional.
And the thing I like about the scale is that, kind of like what you were saying before, you felt like you had to be 110% one way or another. And the scale lets you know that that's not the case. And for most people, they're not 100%. If they're being honest with themselves, because you might occasionally be attracted, or you might find someone attractive who's not exact opposite. But we live in society that makes people real nervous when they have those feelings, and real like questioning their sexuality and all of that, or they just want to ignore it instead of just being like, hey, it's human nature to
But that's one of the things that IME tries to concentrate on. We really feel that the more you normalize your conversation about different sexualities, different genders, then it takes a little of the edge off of coming out, because it doesn't, it takes some of that pressure off. I've been asked in different events, when is a good time to talk to your children about, homosexuality, the LGBTQ. I said, well, when do you think it's a good time to talk to your children about sex? How about we just broaden that conversation? You know what I mean? So when you feel like I don't tell anyone, or we don't tell anyone what, there's never a right time or right age, right?
Mhm.
But when you do feel as though you need to have that conversation about sex, about bodies, about attraction, you should broaden that conversation to make it a little more normalized that you can be different, that not everything is so strictly defined. So even within the community, we're confused. We're confused with each other. We may know the label we claim to represent, but we still have no clue what that other, so-called label or possibility is going on. So, we try to educate people to have them just broaden that conversation and don't put a spotlight on it. When you talk about it separately, when you make it a separate conversation, then you're kind of implying that it's a lot different than the other conversation that we had. You're making it almost abnormal, and having a normal conversation, and abnormal part is this other thing that you're uncomfortable with. So we try to get parents, guardians, whomever, to educate themselves, so when you do have that conversation, you can broaden it. So when it gets time for someone to maybe question who they are, who they're attracted to, not to say that you're not still going to have the anxieties of, whatever's going on in your environment, because you got a lot of environmental factors that kind of influence that decision to let other people in, as you say, instead of coming out, you're letting people in. But if you normalize the conversation, then I think you would be able to let people in while you're still trying to figure out the specifics.
Mhm.
Because even heterosexuals, I mean, yes, you may know that you're attracted to the opposite sex, but you're not attracted to all the opposite sex. There's still different types and stuff that you change kind of over the years. It's no different than us. But if you normalize the conversation, then maybe it's not going to be so hard to let people in, to help, while you're trying to figure that out, if it's anything you really need to figure out.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I love also that you mentioned people asking you the question about with kids and when to talk to them about sex. And the thing that drives me personally a little bit crazy is that that's immediately where people jump when we talk about sexuality. And it's the reason why we have legislation like things going down in Florida that don't say gay rule, which is so frustrating for me because I've done so many interviews with members of the community, and most people know from a young age if they are attracted to the opposite sex or not. Some people don't, and some people it grows and changes over time. But for me, that's the same way how some heterosexuals do not care at all about, girls have cooties, boys have cooties, they don't care till later. But many of them know at a young age, but they don't feel like they're in an environment that's safe to say that because it's so heteronormative. And I feel like we find a lot of times the same people who are saying, kids are too young to talk about that stuff, are also the same people who will ask a child if they're like about their little boyfriend or their little girlfriend at school. So clearly you don't actually feel like they're too young to have those conversations. It makes you uncomfortable to have it in that other way. And so you touched on it a little bit, Angel, but if you could just expand a little bit more on how parents can have those conversations with kids, and it doesn't have to be about sex, it's like love and just who you like, and like how can they have those conversations in an appropriate way?
I think that when you choose to have that talk with your child, and when I say expand it, and I agree with you, we don't need to concentrate on the act of sex. But what you can tell someone is that, when you get older, you're going to be drawn to sometimes you may be drawn to someone like you. You may be drawn to someone who's very not like you. You know what I mean? You can generalize it in that way and not necessarily boy, girl, or however you want to specify it. But the thing is to have it open-ended. So when you talk about attraction, open it up and say, like I said, you may be attracted to someone who's just like you in any kind of way, or you may be, or it's okay to be attracted to someone who's not like you, be that physical, mental, or spiritual. You don't have to necessarily say, do you like kissing little girls, or do you little boys, or, you don't have to be that graphic. Think about the age of the child or the person that you're speaking with. If it's a very young person, then just make it general. Just tell them that um, it's okay to have a liking for someone who looks just like you physically or not like you physically, just like you spiritually or not like you spiritually, just like you mentally or not like you mentally. Like, people don't have a problem talking about, we're Christian, but, we don't down Jewish, or we don't down, Muslims. But whatever it is about sexual identity just makes them nervous. And then they want to, and by their nervousness puts a spotlight on it. So just open in the questions and generalize it. Usually we would tell people, be specific when you say something. But in this instance, if it's a very small child, be generic with it. Leave it open-ended. Let them know that whatever they choose is okay. Don't give them the choices when you speak to them. Don't tell them, well, you're going to grow up and you're going to either be attracted to a boy or a girl. Let's change the wording on that. Let's say when you get older, you're attracted to whoever. And, if it happens to look like you, they look like you. If they don't happen to look like you, they don't. And then take it from there. So I just think that you have to pay attention to the age of the person you're speaking with. And if it is a small child, then just kind of generalize it and include where everyone's included.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Thank you so much. And Phoenix, you mentioned your journey and your change from bisexual or from lesbian, right, to bisexual.
Actually, it's the reverse.
The reverse, okay. But when what age did you start having those thoughts? Was it later in life, or were you a younger?
It's kind of embarrassing because there are two pivotal moments I can think of where I was like, oh, prior to that, as a kid, like little kid or just like below 10, I remember it was more like realizing that other people did not feel the way I felt. I would notice that there were women and girls I thought were very pretty, and of course princesses and stuff like that. But I didn't realize until I was older that straight girls didn't feel that other women and girls were pretty in the same way I did. It's like they had this glistening aura around them. It's like I would not want to just look like, oh, she's pretty. I mean, like linger, like stare, like, oh my gosh, like, hug her, like, and I wasn't to the point of like thinking in a sexual sense yet. But, as a kid, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's such a pretty princess. And there was a line actually in But I'm a Cheerleader, where someone told her, she's like, I just think women are pretty. It's like, yeah, but you don't think women are pretty in the same way that straight girls think women are pretty. You want to do stuff with them. You want to take it further. When I awakened, like fully, at Cab Calloway, I was at an art school, right? And there was this dancer who did a dance to Moulin Rouge, a high school dancer. I don't know how she got approved to do this dance because it was very saucy and very spicy, but she did it. And all the guys in the audience, woody hoo, oh my, wow, foaming at the mouth. And I was aroused. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? The thing is, I knew that gay people existed. I went to an art school, duh. But I didn't think that I was going to be one of them. I didn't want to be one of them because, it's a hard life. And I didn't think I was supposed to be one. I didn't particularly see anything wrong with being that, at least from me, apart from religious upbringing. But I was like, I'm not supposed to be, though. I'm supposed to be straight. And I was disturbed and confused as to why I was like getting hot and reacting this way, the same way the guys were to this dance. And that was the first time I like had that heightened reaction. The second one, of course, me being a nerd, was a cartoon woman, daggone Jessica Rabbit. I saw the Roger Rabbit film, and I was like, that scene where she was singing and all the guys were like, and her proportions, like, I love me a curvy woman, voluptuous Miss Butterworth. So I just, and that's another thing. When talking about attraction, I want to mention I'm attracted to feminine features. So sometimes people assume if someone's a certain sexuality, oh, twinks like twinks or femmes like femmes. It's like there's this like heteronormativity of if you have a masculine person and a feminine person, they're going to complement each other and it has to be that way. But I'm a femme for femme. So when I see lesbians who are studs or butches and have masculine features and dress and expression, I'm not generally attracted to that, even though we're both lesbians. And I think that's important when we're talking about attraction. There are bears, masculine gay guys, who, you know, are turned off by the feminine energy or flamboyant, effeminate behavior of a twink. And I think that definitely needs to be talked about. Just because someone's gay or lesbian doesn't mean that they're going to be attracted to everyone who is.
Yeah, and it's wild that people even think that, because no one thinks every heterosexual person should be attracted to every other heterosexual person.
Gosh.
But it's like whenever you mention that somebody, and I'll be honest, I've been guilty of it before, when like somebody mentions that they're gay, you're like, oh, I have a gay friend, that'd be great for you.
Oh,
like
God.
Not even thinking like what they might like personality. You're just like gay.
Or people ask lesbians who's the man in the relationship. It's like, well, they're two women. That kind of defeats the purpose. Hello.
You just have to let them know, because they have good intentions. They have good intentions. My family is a very loving family, but they are quick to be like, Angel, you know, when I was single, because I'm not single now, but when I was single, they're quick to go, Angel, that person's gay too. Do you know him? It's almost like, you know, they do the same thing with all our, you know, all the LGBTQIA group. Even if I go somewhere and I may be one of few blacks, I get that, you know, there's another black person over there. You don't know them? No,
and I
don't know all gay people, and I don't know, you know, I just don't know all of them.
I think I've seen this meme online. I'm not sure, but it was like when the lesbians get asked that question, who's the man and the woman, like to use the utensil reference. It's not a fork and a knife, it's two chopsticks. Like,
but you know, I do want to say this. When people talk about masculine and feminine connecting, I think people focus too much on physical aspects of masculinity and femininity, because you can have someone look away, but their personality may be more dominant than the other person, or they may be more chivalrous than the other person. And it may be, you know, it could be two femmes, you know, two femmes that are very dainty looking. It could be two gay men that are very, you know, masculine looking. That doesn't mean there's not a feminine or masculine energy involved, but people focus too much on the physical aspect of that instead of the more spiritual or mental aspect of it.
And in behavior and role expectations, one of the struggles I had when dating men was it seemed like I had to lower myself or submit, and there was this insistence on don't emasculate them by taking over or taking charge. And this is in the case of insecure men, but there really is, I see in a lot of this increase of podcasts by people who are trying to push traditional roles again, that you gotta let the man lead. You gotta, he's in charge, he's the dominant. You can't emasculate him by, you know, they're pick-me's, women who are pick-me's. Choose me, I'll be your housewife. It's like, I don't care in whatever context it is, sexuality, lesbians, gay, whatever. I do reject the fact that there always has to be a dominant. There always has to be a submissive. Why? That's not necessary. Whether you're a man, a woman, man, woman, woman. I reject that. I really do.
Yeah. It's not necessary, but I think that people just need to learn themselves. Because what I can tell you, being in my 50s, and dated quite a while and been in this life quite a while, is that there's somebody out there for everybody, regardless if you agree with that personality or stature or swagger or not. There's somebody out there for everybody. So the best thing for you to do, and there are people who want to be submissive, there are people that want to be dominant, and there are people that embrace that, but whatever it is, I think the most important thing is you have to know you. You have to know you and be into whatever you're into, and I guarantee you that there's somebody out there that will match your energy and complement you. But you have to know you. I do not suggest or advise anyone to cater to or try to be something that somebody else wants or needs. You have to be yourself, and it will happen. You know what I mean? You will gravitate toward those that compliment you if you're sure of who you are. But if you're unsure of who you are, then you may get a little more than what you asked for. But if you're sure of who you are, then you don't have to worry about all those other situations.
I do want to add, though, experience teaches us who we are too. And I'll say that when I got a girlfriend, finally, I realized just how gay I am. Because I thought, oh, it's like 90%. And when I finally had the opportunity to act on it, I was like, oh, this is more than love. Like, this is a completely different, the satisfaction, the happiness. You can see it. Like, I feel a happiness, fulfillment. It's not like, oh, well, meh. So, I mean, for some people, like, just like flavors you've never tried, sometimes people get in relationships, queer relationships, and they may think, oh, I like this, I want to play this role, this is what I'm into. And they discover, hey, I think I actually like this, or I'm open to trying this, or my partner introduced me to something I wasn't even going to consider. So, that happens too.
Absolutely. And it's definitely important to be open to accepting that and feeling your change. I don't know if you saw that I closed my eyes and shook my head when you mentioned the podcast, because they are driving me insane.
Oh God, I'm so toxic. The alpha male podcast. That's what it's called.
And the thing of it is like, especially because I grew up very traditional, like super in a conservative area. My mom's Liberian. Well, I'm Liberian, so immigrants and immigrant parents. So like, I get the old school mentality, and I actually don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with it if it makes you happy. What I don't like and don't appreciate is the messaging that's the only way to be. That's like, all men want this, all women do this, and that's the part of it that drives me crazy. If they were out there saying, figure out what's best for you, but some people like this, and if this is the relationship that you want, here's how to do it, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, great, you should like, everyone should. I'm huge on representation, so everyone should have people to look up to. Like, if you love those traditional values in that traditional way, I want you to have people to help guide you through that. What I don't want is for those people to tell everybody else and the rest of us who are like more open, wild, and free, that they have to be the other way, or they're doing something wrong if they're the other way. And part of why I wanted and reached out, and why I love the I Am Me Inc. is be yourself is something that you guys really promote and really push, and really try to make events and things for that, to encourage people to in fact be themselves, and make spaces where people feel safe doing that. When you so this question is going to be for Phoenix. When you came out, did you find
the first or second time?
Either time. Did you find it difficult to feel comfortable when you were out, to feel like you could truly be yourself? Did you feel like you had to hide who you were for a period of time before you could let others in?
I mean, yes. I tried to do the semi double life thing. Like, I would only share that I was queer with queer people, or people I knew were allies. I made sure in conversation to kind of feel people out. I wouldn't dare tell someone that wasn't okay with it.
That makes a lot of sense. And then Angel, with your events and with the Inc., the people that are attracted to and come to that, are they mostly people who are ready to be out and proud? Do you ever have people who are still hesitant or don't really not want people to know? And how do you deal with that? How do you navigate that?
We have it all. We have people that are out and about. We have people that aren't quite out, but just want to, be around like others. And we have allies that come too. So how we deal with it is we allow you to lead us. You know what I mean? So if you are comfortable with being out, then we're right there with you, and we can be out and proud together. If you are not comfortable being out, then we will not put you out. You know what I mean? We will not do that. So when you come to our events, really honestly, you can't, unless they tell you themselves, you don't know if someone's in the life, you don't know if they're an ally, you don't know, you really don't, because we treat everybody the same. We just like it to be known that it's a LGBTQIA safe space. Mm-hmm. And that the people that are, giving the event are LGBTQIA and ally safe space people. Even on our board, there's three of us. There's two of us in the life, and there's three of us that's not. So when you come to our events, everyone's welcome. But no, we do not. You will not be able to tell unless someone specifically told you themselves what their label, identity, pronoun, whatever that may be. We really allow you to lead, and we just follow. We just make it a safe space and then follow whatever direction you would like us to take.
And I'm glad that people have that support and a space to come to that, whether, like you said, they're in the life or an ally. The main part of talking about this is the mental health aspect of it, right? And that's actually also something that drives me nuts about the new legislation, is that they're not taking into account the mental impact of further stifling people from being able to speak to their identity and truly be who they are. And so that increases chances of depression in people, members of the LGBTQIA. It's estimated that 48% of individuals who are LGBT, or 42% of transgender or gender diverse individuals meet the criteria for PTSD. And I wanted to touch on that because I know we all talk about depression and anxiety. Those are the two big ones, as we should. But I think a lot of people don't realize that how many people in real life can have PTSD symptoms because of the trauma that they face in their everyday, from things like bullying and family members and things like that. So I wanted to ask, first I'll start with Phoenix. Have you experienced any of that, like the more negative side of it? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
Of course. I did hate myself because of it. I was also really, really fearful. This is pre gay marriage being legalized. So in my mind, I solidified that that my life would be miserable and awful, and I'd make myself a target for hate crimes if I were to come out. But apart from that I wouldn't be able to marry a wife, that wouldn't be legally recognized, that I wouldn't be able to visit her in the hospital if she's sick, that I wouldn't be able to have a picture or pictures displayed in my office of her, that when people are around the water cooler talking about dating, that I won't be able to engage in those conversations. This fear of isolation, which I already felt because I know I would overhype and over talk about boyfriends that I was dating or boy experiences as if it was, oh yeah, just these great times as women are chatting around and vibing off of that. It's like I'm not feeling what you're feeling, but I'm masking and I'm pretending that I do, and doing that thing that kind of outs gay people in the opposite way. They overperform heterosexuality to the point it's like, it's so robotic, like you can tell it's not authentic. I remember feeling so uncomfortable in locker rooms, at sleepovers, anytime I'm, in a space where women are undressing, and I always, did not act on that. They're straight and that would be inappropriate. But it was a struggle to be in those spaces and have to actively calm myself and not act. And just women in particular are expected to be more affectionate. So it drives me nuts watching straight women just do the whole fun, oh, I love my girlfriend, and just being all touchy-feely. But God forbid someone find out I'm a lesbian. It's like, oh, are you looking at me? Are you? But it's like with your straight girlfriend, all of that is fine. Like, make it make sense. It's a double standard.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you mentioned some of the down feelings with your sexuality and realizing it. And it's unfortunate. 45% of youth in the LGBTQ community have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. And fewer than 1 in 3 transgender or non-binary youth find their home to be gender affirming.
Yeah.
But youth who are in affirming schools or situations have a lower risk of those suicide attempts or of feelings. And just for those watching, if you want more information, those stats were taken from the Trevor Project, which is it's a great resource for the LGBTQ community, but especially for the youth. And it's also why it's so important to have spaces like I Am Me for people to go where they feel safe and where they feel comfortable. Angel, have you had instances where anyone who has come to one of your events or uses your services has expressed negative feelings around their mental health due to their sexuality? And how do you deal with that when that happens?
Actually, we talk to a lot of people. We necessarily haven't had it at like an event or anything, because we do try to go out of our way to make sure that it is a safe space. When we do have places, we really try to kind of control that. But we do have general conversations with people who let us know that, as a matter of fact, right now we're trying to build a program based on resources for people who have been displaced due to bias, gender bias or sexual orientation bias. So we're trying to build a program right now to kind of combat that. And how we're going to do that is pretty much provide a safe space that has all those resources to where people can let their hair down. Because if you are not comfortable telling me, I'm never going to know. So the first thing we have to do is have an environment that allows you to be comfortable enough to talk to us or whomever. And what we do at IME, as I said, we try to really uphold safe space. Even when we deal with other organizations, deal with other individuals, we do go through a little screening process to try to make sure that person or those persons or groups or organizations understand that we do promote safe space. And if you're not, and we have turned people away from maybe an event or a conversation that we've had because we did not get the feeling that they would maintain that safe space. So right now we are trying to do a program that's especially aimed for the youth. And when I say youth, I'm going to say like between the ages of 16 and 18, because that's about the age when you're really kind of, as my grandmother would say, smelling yourself.
Going through it is
and
how
trying
I
to be
say
going through it and becoming independent.
Yeah.
So so we're trying to specifically help those who, like I said, have been displaced because of bias to their orientation, sexual orientation, or to their gender.
And I'm so glad that that's happening. I can't wait to see the program. Someone mentioned in the chat that the Help Me Understand Zooms are a safe space to learn.
It sure is. We have a few events that we have. The Help Me Understand Zoom, which I actually host, and another one of our members and chairs co-host. It is just a conversational Zoom. What we do is we try to get topics that people either want to talk about, or if we want to talk about, or anyone can talk about. I mean, you can go to www.imecorp.org and just give us a suggestion for it. And it's just an open conversation. It's 2 hours for us to talk about whatever needs to be talked about. We've done, we had a parenting series where we talked about LGBTQIA parents raising children. We talked about being an LGBTQIA child, with hetero parents. We talked about dating preferences. We talk about labels. No topic is really no subject is off topic, I should say. So Help Me Understand is a great educational piece for people to come, and you can be anonymous. You can join and don't have to have your camera on. You can type in suggestions or questions to us and we'll talk about it. The people that join, some are professionals, some are just everyday folk. but it is a great place to ask the questions that you want to ask, you know, or
no, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, ask the questions that you want to ask, or at least listen to, and maybe you'll get some suggestions on how to have that conversation with others.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that they have that space. And you mentioned having a conversational space, which is part of what Sharing Hope Community Conversations is for, is to have a space for people to have those conversations. And so normally we record part of it and then have part of it off camera for those who are in attendance if they want to speak up or add anything. So before I let the recording end, I did also want to ask Phoenix, regarding, you know, the actual act of coming out, right? Like, so you talked about your experiences with both times, and I can't even imagine the anxiety that comes with that. So what are some tips or advice you would give for someone who's ready to come out or let people in to help with that anxiety?
Well, you gotta meet some other queer support people. I'm thankful for allies, but they don't understand, like, from a first person perspective. And I had a lot of allies around me, but people couldn't understand what I'm going through or feeling as a queer person. And even now, I don't have that many queer people as friends. I'm just not around them. I don't know that many. Um, you know, and that creates a sense of isolation. So if you're gonna come out, I think it's really important to try to find support from other queer people, because allies can only help with so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So as I mentioned, we'll be including the link if you're in Delaware and you want to find support. There is I Am Me Inc., but you're actually just a chapter of it, right? Are you in other locations?
We're in Delaware, but right now we're blooming in Philadelphia. So we're starting a Philadelphia chapter.
Awesome.
So we're excited about that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. I know it's a sensitive topic, but it's a much needed topic. So the more people that are willing to be open and transparent about it, or have organizations to help others, it's so much appreciated and needed. So thank you both for your time today. And thank you also to everybody who has been tuning in for your time as well.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.